Today, I want to start the journey of Nuzlocking the entire Pokemon franchise, but I'm playing as Ash Ketchum. This means I'll only be using Ash's Pokemon through my entire journey, and I was inspired by my buddy Chaotic Meatball to do this challenge. But to make things a bit more fun, if a Pokemon dies during our Pokemon Red run, for example, I can't use it later in this video in blue and yellow, and this should make it more fun and more interesting. And for this particular video, we'll mainly be focusing on red, blue, and yellow, so no green version, and of course, our pool of available Pokemon is on the screen, which is pretty large. So let's get started. We'll start with Pokemon Red, and after our starter, we're going to be going for Bulbasaur, the grass dino. Now, we have to be very careful, because if we lose it at any point, we can't use it again in blue or yellow later in the video. But it's fine, since we need Bulbasaur for the first two gym leaders. We sort of battle against Gary very quickly, and then head out. Given that things will be rough on this playthrough, we won't have access to something like Mankey, or really anything good in Viridian City, or really Route 1, but we will find Pidgey here. And with Pidgeotto being one of Ash's probably best birds, except maybe, I don't know, Staraptor, it is actually really not that good, because it didn't win a single gym battle for him in the actual anime, but he will be good for us in this playthrough. So like I said, our first match will be against Brock, and to guarantee this victory, we'll make sure that Bulbasaur levels up to at least level 13, as that is when it learns the move Vine Whip, which we need to deal heavy damage to his Geodude and Onix. And luckily, back in Gen 1, the special and physical split hadn't really taken place, so we can pretty much mow through his team relatively easy. And he is a pain generally if you choose something like Charmander, but given the fact that we have Bulbasaur, he doesn't stand a chance against us, as our Leech Seed is able to do most of the work, and then the Vine Whip finishes him off. Our biggest struggle at this point will be to stop our Bulbasaur from evolving, as Ash never evolved his during the adventures they had together. Making me wonder, what are some Pokemon you guys think Ash should have evolved during the series? Let me know in the comments, and also subscribe if you guys want to see the future of this series. Cerulean City, here we come. Now, Misty is the gym leader here, and the level cap is about 21, so we make sure to level up and evolve Pidgey into Pidgeotto, which will give us a new set of moves like Whirlwind. Now that we have our levels which are ready, we've got to go and take on Misty first, and the reason for this is that we can actually increase our level cap before inevitably battling on the Nugget Bridge against Gary, so we want to avoid that for now. Instead, let's take on Misty. So, she sends in her Staryu first, and given it's under-leveled as opposed to our Bulbasaur, we simply shoot off two Vine Whips and it's defeated. However, Starmie is stronger, and Misty actually uses an X defense, which doesn't really change anything, as our triple Vine Whip takes it down, giving us a comfortable second gym badge. Like I said, Bulbasaur as a starter Pokemon is able to easily roll through pretty much the first two gyms, even the third gym possibly, but we do need some new team members, so we're going to need them for the challenge ahead. Of course, before we can get the third gym badge, we have to deal with our rival on the Nugget Bridge, but lucky for us, he won't have a single Pokemon which will cause us any sort of trouble, as we can use Leech Seed to heal ourselves while sweeping through most of his team, using Pidgeot, or Pidgeotto in this case, only to really handle the Charmander. With that sorted out, we can head down to the SSN, but the problem is, I still lack a new Pokemon in our squad, and we have quite a few options for a teammate, as Ash's Pokemon, well, there's loads of them, but we have to be careful because we still have blue and yellow version left to play, so we gotta avoid getting teammates killed. We gotta make sure they all survive. So for now, we will actually use Bulbasaur and Pidgeot until we get our hands on somebody else. The SSN about to take off, we hop on and battle Gary once more. Only difference now is that his team is stronger and more evolved, especially his Pidgeot, so Bulbasaur handles those guys, and our own Pidgeotto has to take down the remaining teammates that he uses, like Charmeleon, as we need to make sure Bulbasaur stays alive, because he will again be handy later down the line. With this in process, we get Cut, HM Cut, which can now allow us to enter Vermilion Gym. Once we enter the gym, we will find Lieutenant Surge. Lucky for us, we once again just have to rely mostly on Bulbasaur, using the Leech Seed at the start of each battle to give back some small amounts of health, because back in Red and Blue, he actually uses a pretty strong team. He has a lot of variety, and the worst thing is if they try to nuclearly blast themselves, but it doesn't really matter because in between our Vine Whips, we take him down. The Raichu is a bit of a worrisome problem, but luckily we still go through it without any issues either. So now we've taken down our third gym badge already, meaning we can make progress to the fourth one. Before we leave Vermilion, we check the grass right outside and find Mankey. See, Mankey is a easily forgotten Pokemon that Ash used, and for us, it'll be the saving grace that we needed in this case, and it will help us against some of the battles down the line. Now, if you guys remember, Mankey and eventually even Primeape were only part of his team for a very short amount of time, but as a, I guess, fighting-type Pokemon, they were really cool. I think the Grand Prix episode is when it started, and Primeape did just an amazing job, but ended up leaving Ash after that whole episode and stuff, so I personally am kind of sad that Primeape disappeared. I wish he was with Ash longer, but at least now we have an extra squad member. The rock tunnel is mostly a cakewalk as we pass through there, and then we make it to the ghastly old Lavender Town. But we're not going to spend much time at Lavender Town, instead head to Celadon for our 4th gym badge. See, Erica is a grass and poison type user, so her victory bell gets Pidgeot stuck in its move Wrap, and this will keep doing damage to us several times, so we switch in Bulbasaur instead to save Pidgeot from a certain death. However, she also uses a Tangela, but same thing here, she uses Constrict that stops us from doing any further damage, so Primeape is switched in again, and with a single Karate Chop destroys it. But after hitting our 2 Karate Chops, well, Primeape catches a Petal Dance to the face and ends up being our first death in this run. Yes, Primeape ends up dying shortly after I got him. But it doesn't matter. Bulbasaur comes in and handles the Wild Plume and gives us the 4th gym badge, but like I said, it came at the cost of our poor Primeape, who we really could have had some massive use for later in the run, and well, we can't even use the Pokemon Blue and Yellow version runs later to use him again. Like, he's gone for the rest of this video, which is just unfortunate. Before we head down into Team Rocket's hideout, we evolved Pidgeotto into Pidgeot. We managed to then beat Giovanni with only our Bulbasaur again, since Giovanni mostly uses ground types, so they're all weak to us. In the Battle Tower, however, or Pokemon Tower, Blue is underleveled compared to us, and we sweep through most of his squad using just our Pidgeot. I mean, I'm gonna be real, Pidgeot was not that good in the anime, but really, really good for us. Finally, we can save Mr. Fuji in the tower, and now we can get the Flute to get Snorlax, which means it's time to get to Route 12. And along the way, we can also find 2 new teammates. First up, we capture Snorlax, and it comes with 3 moves. Headbutt is our only, I guess, offensive move, but we also have Amnesia and Rest, which are very clutch and can come in handy. Unfortunately, we don't have the move Snore, which is something you only get in Snorlax during Fire Red and Leaf Green, but that's not the end of the world. You know, we've got Snorlax, but that's not the only Pokemon we get ourselves. We can also find a man who will give us a free Super Rod, which we can also use to find ourselves a Krabby in the water on our first try. Now, Krabby will be great because it is the water type addition that we need, especially against somebody like Blaine later down the line, but also great against many other things. And honestly, I just love Krabby. It has great like physical moves as well, like Crab Hammer later on. And in the anime, it was just really sad because it was one of the first Pokemon that Ash caught that was sent to the Pokemon like PC or like to the lab, and he actually used it the least amount. It's really sad, but hey, at the end of the day, we do have him in our squad now, and it will make us a little bit stronger against some of the battles down the line. So before we head to the Safari Zone on the hunt for probably one of our last teammates, we have to make a stop at Koga's gym. Now, he uses poison types, so his coughing has to go up against our big old Snorlax, with Body Slam taking it down and also dealing with the muck as well. But just as we are about to finish up the battle, he still has a Weezing left to go. He poisons our Snorlax, which puts us in trouble, okay, I'm gonna be honest. So I switched to Pidgeot in, not expecting the freaking self-destruct though, so yeah, you can already guess where this went. This was hands down the most devastating loss we could have gotten. Pidgeot would have been instrumental for our later battles and journey, and now that it's straight up gone, we are in huge trouble. That is our 2nd death already, and we'll be needing to replenish our ranks with some other Pokemon. One of these will be found inside of the Safari Zone itself, so we head there after beating Koga. Now that we're here in the Safari Zone, we have to hunt for 3 things. First of all, we need Surf, the move Surf. Second, we need the gold teeth for the old man, and also a Tauros, which only has a 2% encounter rate, which is just incredibly hard to find in Pokemon Red and Blue, with the encounter rate only being increased like a bit more in Yellow version. But for now, we have, you know, to look around. Eventually, we catch one of the 30 or so Tauros, which Ash decided to catch in the zone himself, but now that we sorted that out, we can head on. On our way back to Celadon, we do get some lemonade and give access to Saffron City. Inside, of course, we're gonna have to battle our way up through the giant tower before we reach our rival Blue. So the thing about Blue, if you guys didn't know this, but he's actually the only character whose game counterpart is a champion, but also hasn't been a champion in the anime himself, which is really funny because of course in the games, he's the champion at the end, but in the anime, he's never actually been champion, which is just super random, but kind of fun to know. Either way though, this battle in the Silphco building is not that big of a deal. At the end of the day, he's pretty easy to solve, but we also get ourselves a Lapras. Now, Lapras is an important Pokemon, and I'll be honest, this playthrough would not have been possible. And of course, Lapras is a Pokemon that Ash, I think, gets around the Orange Islands, so it is a little bit later into his adventures, but at the end of the day, we still got it. As for the next man on this agenda, it's going to be none else than Giovanni. You guys know Giovanni, the leader of Team Rocket, as per usual. Of course, his squad consists mostly of ground-type Pokemon, so we just spam a lot of moves from Snorlax here, like Body Slam, which is really powerful, especially back in Gen 1. It was super strong. We also have a Master Ball, but I don't really see the point of using it. There's not really any Pokemon we need to capture. Instead, we make our way over to Sabrina. She uses mainly Psychic-type Pokemon, and kind of a little interesting fact, but she actually, I think, is the only gym leader who uses a I guess a Pokemon doesn't match her type exactly, which is a little bit odd, but yeah, she has a Venomoth, which doesn't match her typing. It's super random, but yeah, either way, this is only red and blue, by the way, so she doesn't use it in yellow. Moving on, we do have an easy battle on our hands. In the process, though, our team does get into a little bit of trouble. As you may notice, I always have to kind of switch out. It's something you have to do when you're doing one of these runs. You non-stop have to switch out because you want to save Pokemon for later down the line. Keep in mind, we still have 2 more games to finish. This is only the first journey. But now that we sorted that out, we go to the Pokemon Mansion, we find ourselves some resources, but also capture another teammate. It's gonna be Grimer. Of course, Muck is one of Ash's OGs. You guys will remember it. It was one of his best Pokemon, in my opinion, but we also want to have it on our squad. That poison typing can come in real clutch and real useful, especially against somebody like Blaine. Of course, he's the fire type gym leader, the man with the mustache. So, what are we going to do against him? Well, Growlithe is going to be out first. We go for the body slams. We do catch a few stomps to the face, but he has a Ponyta and a Rapidash, and both these guys are weak to the physical body slams as well as the headbutts. There's a really cool glitch that happens right here. I don't know if you guys noticed it, but the Arcanine tried to use, or rather, Blaine tried to use a Super Potion. This is actually a rare glitch that happens. You guys can go back in the video if you want to see it, but he tries to use a Super Potion on a fully healed Pokemon. Super random, but it doesn't really matter right now. We are back in Viridian City, and we're going to be taking on Giovanni, who is the final gym leader. Of course, you guys will remember Giovanni. We just battled him a few minutes ago, back in the Silphco building. Of course, his team will still be just consisting of a lot of ground type, rock type, those type of Pokemon, like Rhyhorn here. So we do go out with the Snorlax first, trying to make sure that the Body Slam does most of the work. Rhyhorn does fall to it, and then we have Dugtrio. We do get hit almost by a Sand Attack, which wouldn't be good because our overall accuracy would fall, which we don't need. Nidoqueen doesn't, stand much of a chance either, and Nidoking is the most dangerous one, but still, the Body Slams are mostly all you need here. Double Edge is a good move to get. I think in this case, I decided not to go for it because I wanted to have moves that wouldn't cause me to get any damage myself. Because I don't really remember, but it just wasn't really in a good position for me to try to do anything that would risk my Pokemon. So Bulbasaur has to come in instead. We go for the Wine Whip, and we defeat the Rhydon. And that means we have the final gym badge, which also means we have to battle our rival 2 more times. The first one's going to be on this route right before Victory Road. Gary's waiting for us, and we take him on in the ultimate battle. Now, this man has himself a full team. Pidgeot is out first. We go for a mix of headbutts to try to get that thing down. We do have still Rhyhorn to deal with, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Gary was actually the first rival to capture a legendary Pokemon on screen in the anime. This is specifically when he caught Regidrago, which is pretty crazy, right? Because, yeah, no other rival, specifically rival, has actually caught it on camera until Gary. He was actually the first one. He caught a Regidrago, which is pretty awesome. Then there is, of course, if you want to call, what's his name, Go, if you want to call him a rival, then fair enough, but I'm talking about, like, rivals from the games in this case, which is pretty awesome. Nonetheless, though, for his team, he's got himself that Charizard at the end here. As you guys know, we chose Bulbasaur, so of course he's going to have the Fire type. But luckily, we have 2 Water type Pokemon. Both Kingler and Lapras are on our squad, which means we do have those 2 to help us out whenever necessary. Next up is a Victory Road. I'm not really going to show much of this here because I don't really think this is really worth it. Instead, we're going to skip right to the Elite Four battle. This one is against Lorelei. Of course, the combination of Water Ice type Pokemon is not the best. We have Tauros out first. We go for the Horn Attacks. Honestly, Horn Attack is so good, man. Horn Drill, though, has very low accuracy, so we try not to use that. And the Dugong here was just a pain to deal with, man. It just didn't want to die. She kept healing it with Super Potions. Cloyster, however, is a little bit more sketchy. So we switch in Bulbasaur, but we realize that's not working either. So Muck has to come in instead. And here we can finally use our moves. We go for Sludge. Doesn't do a lot, but we do also try to use Minimize later on because it just helps, like, lower the, lower the accuracy of the enemy or actually make us evasive more. But we do still have a Lapras as an option, and the Body Slam on Lapras is really good. We didn't want to use Snorlax, like I said, or any of the other guys, because I didn't want to risk them. Instead, I thought, hey, Lapras could be fine for now. It should survive, because no moves they go for here will really even work. Plus, the paralysis onto the Cloyster is more than enough.
On the other hand, though, Slowbro is a little bit more scary. We do get it paralyzed as well, and that's actually what, like, kind of solves this for us. And then finally against Jinx, it is a bit scary, but again, we do get the hit and defeat it, leaving only the enemy Lapras, and again, we get the paralysis. Like, I'm gonna be real, Body Slam was disgusting in Gen 1. Always, like, had a high chance of paralyzing, and of course, Snorlax has it too, so it's just clutch. Either way, that was Lorelei, but we still have to deal with 3 more Elite Four members. The first one is Bruno. Out of all the Elite Fours, I'm gonna be honest, Bruno is probably the easiest one. Mostly because if you have one single, like, even, I don't know, grass type or water type or even ice type, he doesn't stand a chance. His Onyx stands no chance. His Hitmonchan even gets poisoned here by our boy. We actually decide to poison him, and then we just spam a bunch of Mega Drains, making sure that we keep our health while also taking him down. Against the Hitmonlee, we do pretty much the same thing. We poison him, and then it's just trying to survive through his jump kicks, or I guess they should just be called jump kicks, not really high jump kick. I don't know. It's a bit weird, but it doesn't really matter. Actually, if you guys didn't know this, in the first episode of the Pokemon anime, there's actually a shadowed person that actually really, like a silhouette of a character that looks very similar to Bruno. It's really random, but he's using a Nidorino and an Onyx, and it's never actually officially been confirmed whether this person really is Bruno or not, but I think it's pretty cool because the similarities are pretty much there. So he was kind of in the opening of the anime, man. It's pretty cool. Nonetheless, though, the last Pokemon he has is going to be the Machamp, and we poison it and defeat it, meaning we only have 2 more Elite Four members to go. This is probably the hardest one, I'm not gonna lie. It is Agatha. Agatha, of course, uses Ghost-type Pokemon, and back in Gen 1, Ghost-types were strong, man. We do manage to freeze the Gengar first out with the Ice Beam, and then against Golbat, we do the same thing. We just go for the Ice Beam, and then against the Haunter, I actually switch in Kingler, and I try to go for Surf, as of course, this thing is not going to be damaged by any fighting or normal-type moves. We only really have Surf as an option, and we try to actually save our Pokemon by going into our boy Muck and trying to go for the Toxic Sludge, but again, it's not really working out too much for us. We do a little bit of damage to the Arbok, but like I said, we kind of are in a weird position, man. We try to use Disable as well, doesn't do shit, and she keeps just switching. That's like the weird thing about Gen 1, I noticed. They switch Pokemon a lot, okay? They keep switching, and so do I, because I do not want to risk my team dying here. Like, we want to make sure everybody survives. Keep in mind, we only have 2 losses so far, which is pretty good. If we lose any more than that, it just gets really bad. Like, we want to try to avoid losses as much as humanly possible, because it will just give us a bad time. So against Gengar here, we try to get try to get a few Confuse Rays in, something like that, maybe try to make sure that we can give ourselves some space to work with. The thing is level 60 at the end of the day, and it poisons our Lapras. So we have to make sure we come in clutch. We switch in Kingler because I thought, that might work better, but that didn't really work. So I decided, okay, well, let's save him as well, and let's instead go to Bulbasaur. And luckily, that was the clutch moment. That was the thing that saved us. So hey, it worked out. But next up is Lance, and I don't know if you guys know this, but Lance actually has 2 Pokemon with moves that they cannot normally learn. It's got to be the Dragonite, which has Barrier that he uses in red and green and blue, as well as his Aerodactyl that actually knows Rock Slide, which he uses in gold, silver, and crystal, while Aerodactyl only really learns Rock Slide later on in Generation 3. It's a little bit weird, but luckily for us, though, we do have Bulbasaur out first, and we decide to spam the Mega Drains and whatnot, as they are able to do a little bit of damage, but also keep us alive. But luckily here, he keeps spamming Agility. Agility is just a move that's, increases your speed, but we get the poison off, right? We get the poison plus the Wine Whips, which eventually take down the first Dragonair, but he has 2 of them. So now that we have to deal with that, we just gotta go and spam Wine Whip again, hoping he doesn't use an actual attacking move, and eventually our Cut plus Poison does take it down. Aerodactyl is a different story. This thing, it takes down our Bulbasaur, which, yes, that means that is our 3rd death in this run. Bulbasaur is dead. We cannot use him again ever in this run, and that's pretty much it. But that's fine, because we do have still a Dragonite against us, which we take down with the Ice Beam, as Ice types are the only effective thing against Dragon types back in the day. Meaning, we're almost done with just blue version. We still have, keep in mind, red version. We still have blue and yellow to go. And first up is going to be Gary. Now, I don't know if you guys know this actually, but did you guys know that the word champion in Pokemon in the French localization is actually translated to Pokemon Master instead of, or Maître, or whatever you want to say it. I don't know the French exact word, but basically, you're saying Pokemon Master. And this is actually the same thing in Swedish, which I speak, where instead of saying Pokemon Champion, you say Pokemon Mästare, which is just random as hell, but just a little fact I wanted to throw in. As for this battle, though, it is Gary again, so we are luckily going to have most of our squad on our side here. The Body Slam from Snorlax takes down the Rhydon, and then for Exeggutor, it's mostly just trying to survive the Psychics, but eventually Snorlax does die. So yes, That is another big death, man. So Bulbasaur, Snorlax, both are gone. We send in Tauros next, and we try to go for the Horn attacks, which, yes, it works out, but keep in mind, we still have the rest of his team to go. The Gyarados with the Hydro Pump kills our Tauros. That's another death. Yes, we're up on 5 deaths. Like, this one battle cost us 3 Pokemon. 2 of our Pokemon actually ended up dying here. Muck is almost dead as well, but we get the Poison and the Sludge to do the last amount of damage. And here I want to save Muck just in case I need him later in the run. So I send in Kingler instead, and we try to survive. And luckily, he goes for Rage. If he just went for any other move, we're dead. But he goes for Rage twice, which lets us hit Surf. And I'm so worried here. Like, I'm gonna die. I'm like, what do I do? He goes for Rage. We survive on 6 HP. It's insane. But we survive, and we defeat him. And yes, at the end of the day, we did end up losing 2 Pokemon in this specific battle, and we lost 5 Pokemon in just Red version. Keep in mind, this is the completed Pokemon Red right now as Ash, but we still have to do a few more games. Keep in mind, this is just the first game, and we've lost 5 Pokemon, so it ain't looking too good, boys. I'm not gonna lie, but hey, it is what it is. As we move on to Blue version, this game is where things get a little bit more hectic. First of all, we're gonna be catching ourselves a few Pokemon, so let's start off with that. Out first is going to be Charmander. I decided to go for Charmander in Blue because Charizard is really clutch and can do most of the work for us. The Squirtle battle is nothing to really deal with. And next up, we have to capture our first Pokemon, which is going to be Caterpie, which also was the first Pokemon Ash ever caught himself in the anime as well. So we catch him and add him to our squad. Next up is going to be Rattata. Now, you might be confused. Wait, why are you using Rattata? Well, Ash actually owned Rattata, or rather Eradicate, in the SS Anne episode. He actually traded, I think, Butterfree away, and he got a Rattata or Eradicate in return. And you might also be wondering, did you just catch a Weedle? Yes, I did. Weedle is another Pokemon we can use because Ash owned a Beedrill for just like 1 episode in Johto. In Johto, he actually caught one. And as long as the Pokemon have ever been owned by him, we're allowed to use them, so that's why we have both these guys in the squad. However, the battle against Brock is going to be on our side because we do have the Confusion on Butterfree. If we do this about twice, it just takes down both Onix and, of course, the Geodude as well. The second time around, though, this battle has not been as difficult as I was worrying that it would be because we did have the Charmander, you know, starter choice. So I was a little bit scared, but it wasn't the end of the world. As we move on over to Cerulean City, we just skip through the whole Mount Moon thing because, for the most part, it's just us running through it and try to get through it as fast as we can. There wasn't really much to do there, and also no encounter specifically for Ash that we can find there, so we skip through that, and now it's time for Misty. As for Misty's battle, though, I'm gonna be honest, Staryu can be a bit scary, but luckily, the Confusion is able to do the same thing it did against Brock. It's just use it twice or 3 times maybe, and you're fine. However, against Starmie, we have to switch in Beedrill. Like I said, Beedrill was a Pokemon Ash owned. He caught it in the bug catching contest, if you guys remember that episode. He actually caught it there, but to make sure it doesn't die here after using 1 Twin Needle, we switch in Charmeleon, and to make sure that he doesn't die, we switch in Beedrill again, and luckily, both of them live, and we hit the Twin Needle again, and we survive, which was really, really close. Back onto the Nugget Bridge we go, and of course, you guys know who's going to be waiting for us here. It's our good old friend Gary. He has got Pidgeotto out, and normally Butterfree should not be the best choice here because of our typing, but luckily we do have Confusion, so it does most of the work. Abra also falls to it, leaving only really 2 Pokemon, and that's going to be Rattata, the Eradicate, which we ended up killing in the actual games, if you guys remember the whole theory about that. But Beedrill goes in with Twin Needle against both of them, and also the Squirtle, because yes, he's going to be using Squirtle since we chose Charmander. We've also evolved our boy into a Charmeleon now, so he's going to be also stronger, as we do need those things in our squad. I don't know if you guys actually know this, but as we move down towards the SS Anne, there's actually an international police agent inside of here with a kind of a sprite that looks like a gentleman one, who's actually on the SS Anne looking for Team Rocket, which people speculate that is Looker, that he's been around since Gen 1, but hey, it's just speculation. We're going to be taking on Gary again. I know we just beat him on the Nugget Bridge, but for some reason, they decided in the game, hey, you're going to fight him twice. So he is on the SS Anne this time around. The same thing here. He's evolved his Pokemon now into Eradicate. We decide to switch out our Beedrill instead because, well, we don't want to lose our Butterfree already. Like, Butterfree is a good Pokemon, okay? It's a very strong Pokemon. We don't want to lose it. So instead, we go in with Beedrill and the Twin Needles, as well as just, like, really any of our Fury attacks are doing most of the damage. We also have Hyper Fang on our Eradicate because, yes, we have the Eradicate as well. I mean, it's perfect, guys. Eradicate on the SS Anne where Ash traded it 1 time. It was sick. Either way, once we've got cut now, all we gotta do is go and take on the Vermilion City Gym. This is where, well, something, you know, it's a little bit more sketchy here. I'm gonna be honest. This gym is a little bit more terrifying. It is against Lieutenant Surge. The man used to be a literal soldier, so it's a bit more freaky. Out first on his end is going to be the Volt Orb. We go for Confusion. He uses an X speed. I noticed that a lot of these guys used a lot of the X, like, items back in this game. Like, a lot of them use it, like X speed, X attack, X defense, a lot of that. He also has a Pikachu, and it hits us with a Thunder Wave, which does leave Butterfree paralyzed, which isn't good. I'm hoping that, hopefully, this Confusion does most of the work, but it doesn't. So, the second hit finally should do the work, but it doesn't do it, so we have to switch in instead Beedrill, hoping the Twin Needle is strong enough. But that Quick Attack, man, that Quick Attack did a lot of damage, to be honest. Holy crap. Raichu is the final Pokemon, and here things are terrifying. Well, we go for Twin Needle, but we have to switch out into Raticate instead and go for the Hyper Fang because Beedrill would have died if we tried to go for another move. So we do end up beating him, but I'm going to be honest, it was very close. It was not an easy battle. So as we go into the Rock Tunnel, we mostly just have to beat a bunch of these guys who are just waiting here before we get all the way to Lavender Town. In Lavender Town, we just go through it real quick, and then we make it our way to Celadon. Celadon is where things get a bit more interesting. See, Erica is actually the only Kanto gym leader to have the same Japanese and English name. I don't know if you guys knew that, but her name is Erica in both Japanese and in English, which is pretty cool. First out is Victory Bell. Here we go for, well, just the Twin Needle. It takes down the first Pokemon, as well as the Tangle, I think, also suffers to it, but we do also get kind of tangled up here, or wrapped up, but she also has a Vileplume, and this thing is just nasty, okay? But we managed to defeat it. Keep in mind, that's the same Vileplume that killed our Primeape in Red version earlier in the video. So yeah, I was a little bit stressed out about this. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit worried. Down in Team Rocket's tunnel though, we're gonna be battling through a bunch of their grunts before we take on Giovanni. Of course, lucky for us, his team again should be weak to any of our, well, grass type moves. So I did actually give Mega Drain, which is I think a TM you can pick up randomly, and you can give that to Butterfree. So I made sure to give that TM specifically to Butterfree in case of situations like this where we kind of need it. So it worked perfectly. The Kangaskhan is a little bit scary though, and as he uses the Rage. So we try to go for Confusion, which is just not effective. And since we're so close to dying here, you know, it's just not worth it. We decide to send in Charmeleon instead, hoping that's going to do the work. But since it's so close to dying, Beedrill has to be sent out as well. And I'm gonna be real, man, this whole battle was terrifying. But luckily, the Fury Attack does eventually hit, and we only live on 4 HP. Like, that's so close, man. So close. Highly recommend to not take risks like that. It's not worth it. But doesn't really matter, because we are about to go to where the banned episode of the anime took place. You guys may remember the Pokemon Tower episode. It's a well-known one in history, but it's a banned episode that was actually set in Lavender Town. But now, all it does is not exist anymore, and we just have Lavender Town itself in the games, which is fine, because here we're going to be taking on Gary again. Of course, his squad is just the same one as before. I think he added a Growlithe from the route on, like, the west side of Lavender Town. I always forget which one it is, but he pretty much caught this Growlithe there, I'm pretty sure. And this is the same Growlithe that he has as an Arcanine later down the line as well. But we do take the boy down. We have Charmeleon out next here, who does that. It just comes in and clutches it out. He also has an Executor, or Execute, and this one is taken out with a, I think, Ember. I mean, Charmeleon doesn't really have a lot of great moves early on, I'm gonna be honest. Like, not really a lot of good fire-type moves to work with. Like, Charmeleon is actually, without Slash, Charmeleon just ain't that good, man. But the War Turtle is the scarier thing. We go for Seismic Toes, the bubble hits us, we go for a Seismic Toss again, and the bubble hits us again, and we barely live, but it is perfect because we do get the victory. It was very close, not gonna lie, very risky. Again, I do take a lot of those risky choices, but like I said, Seismic Toss is a TM that we picked up, and we gave it specifically to our Pokemon, so we would have a fighting type move that could be coming in really handy. We also catch Haunter, because yes, Ash catches, actually, Ash just caught 2 of them. Technically, he caught a Haunter in the Pokemon Tower episode, but he also caught a Gengar in the Journeys anime, so we have a bit of both. But we also find another Pokemon that we can't capture, which is going to be Snorlax, as well as this old man that's going to give us the Fishing Rod again. With the Fishing Rod, we'll be able to catch another Krabby later, but for now, we're going to go and take on Koga instead, because, well, we already have enough of teammates to do it. First out is going to be Coughing. Here, of course, we're going to go for the Seismic Toss. As you may see, Charmeleon has now evolved into a Charizard, as well as the rest of our team has just been leveled up a lot. Haunter can evolve, of course, because we would need to trade him to evolve him, but we can at least do most of the work with Charizard. We do get poisoned, but we have Slash now, as you may notice, so we do have to make sure that Charizard survives. Instead, Beedrill comes in and we try to go for the Twin Needle. Again, really clutch move, does a lot of the work, but it's just not enough, man. It's just not enough to take down all of them. So eventually, though, it does come in handy and does take down the Weezing as well. But the Weezing has self-destruct, which is unfortunate. So we won the battle, but we lost Beedrill. So yes, this is what I meant. It wasn't enough. You would have thought that would have been perfect, but it wasn't perfect. Speaking of things, though, Koga did defeat one of our Pokemon, but did you guys also know that Koga uses Venomoth on his team in all of the games in which Sabrina does not use one, and vice versa? So if, like, Sabrina is using a Venomoth, he doesn't use a Venomoth, but if he's using a Venomoth, Sabrina doesn't. It's kind of a little weird little fact. I didn't even know it myself, but I learned it recently. And as we go over and give the gold teeth to the old man, we also make sure to go back and catch a Krabby, because we did just lose Beedrill, so we need a Pokemon to replace him. And of course, we catched a Krabby to add to our squad, because if we evolve it into a Kingler, it is a perfect Pokemon. Like, it is really, really strong, especially with Crab Hammer. I think even has Stomp. It's got a lot of good moves, okay? It's got a lot of good moves. So we make sure to add it to a squad. Over in the Silphco building, none else than our good old boy Gary's waiting. Now, this battle was a bit, like, annoying. I really wish we had Flamethrower already, but we didn't. Luckily, though, Ember has a high chance of burning, so it does burn the Pidgeot, so that is able to be taken down. Then we use Seismic Toss, which does most of the work, but we also get, like, recoiled sometimes by it, which means we take damage from it ourselves, which is something I didn't even know about Seismic Toss. I didn't know it was the case in Gen 1 that it did that. Against the Alakazam, we switch in Haunter instead to make sure we live, and in case of Haunter, well, it's a little bit sketchy, so we decide to go in with Kingler now instead, because, of course, we caught the Krabby and evolved him already. And yeah, I'm not gonna be real, man. This battle was a bit scary, dude. The Alakazam is really dangerous. The Blastoise, though, well, here we go for Stomp a few times and we survive multiple bites. But eventually, though, we are so close to dying on just 9 HP, but we do defeat him. We do also pick up Lapras again. I'm going to be real. Lapras is just the perfect Pokemon. Now that we've defeated Silphco, it's time to take on Sabrina for the second time. As I mentioned, Sabrina is actually, like, pretty interesting because she would normally have Venomoth if Koga doesn't have one. But you guys also know that Sabrina is, like, the first gym leader in the anime to receive a Pokemon from the main character. Like, she actually got the Haunter from Ash, which is just really cool. But moving on, though, the Venomoth that you guys see in front of us, like I said, Koga doesn't have one, so she will. This thing is, like, I think the only Pokemon on her team that doesn't match her typing. So we're able to take it down with Hyper Fangs from Raticate and also save our team from losing any more teammates. Against the Alakazam, well, things are a little bit different. The Hyper Fang does most of the work, and we are able to defeat her. That means we have 5 gym badges. Actually, I think 6 gym badges, which means only 2 more are needed in blue version. First, we go downstairs and we pick up this TM, which is for Solar Beam. Of course, we don't have Bulbasaur or a Venusaur on our team, so we can't really use that. It's not really necessary. And after that, it's time to take on Blaine, who, of course, has his beautiful little, little glasses, little mustache. Growlithe is the first Pokemon on his side that's going to be going down. Against Ponyta, we just spam Surf. I'm going to be real. This whole battle was just Kingler. Like, Kingler did all the work. It just had to keep using Stomp or, in this case, Surf, because most of these guys are weak to it. Against Arcanine, we just go for the, I guess, the Crab Hammer, because it was just going to hit and do a lot of damage anyway, so it did exactly that, perfectly giving us another gym badge. Actually, our penultimate gym badge before the final one, which we'll find somewhere else. We also make sure to give our Charizard Fire Blast, which is funny because shortly, I think around exactly this time, we're also going to be given Flamethrowers. So it's a little bit stupid, but yeah, we ended up still getting the Flamethrower shortly after this, which is kind of dumb, but doesn't really matter. Speaking of this gym, though, Viridian Gym, of course, you guys know Giovanni is the gym leader here, and we're going to not really have a lot of trouble because we do have Surf on our boy Kingler. But did you guys know that in concept art for Pokemon Red and Green, there was actually indications that the Viridian Gym was going to be the first gym to be fought in the game? Like, this was supposed to be the first gym before you took on Brock, and it was supposed to actually have different characters. Like, it was supposed to be random who was going to be the gym leader there, which is kind of weird, but they decided to ditch that later into development. So now that we sorted him out, we're done with Giovanni, we can move on to the actual Elite Four. But before them, we do have to take on Gary one more time before the championship. His Pidgeot again here is going to be annoying. We go in for the Stomps, which do most of the work, but again, he has Quick Attack as well. Luckily, his Pidgeot has never been a trouble. I've noticed that. As long as we don't use a Pokemon that's like super effective, like that he's super effective against, we're pretty much fine. Rhyhorn, same thing. Really unfortunate. I think Rhyhorn is a cool Pokemon, but it just honestly is not that good. Growlithe, on the other hand, I don't know why this man didn't evolve his Growlithe into an Arcanine before this battle, or even his Execute into an Exeggutor, but it doesn't really matter to me because we have Charizard now ready to rumble. And of course, like I said, we are coming in clutch with the Flamethrowers, and we have Ice Beam as well on Lapras, which is able to take down the Alakazam, leaving only the Blastoise. And here we just have to use Mega Drain, like just spam Mega Drain, but the Hydro Pump is very scary, so Haunter has to come in, and we use Nightshade and follow that up with a Thunderbolt, hoping that's going to be enough. And because we outspeed, it is enough. So we've taken down Gary for the second to last time, but we still have a few more battles to go. First is the Victory Road, and here, it's just not really anything crazy that happens. We just make it through without any troubles, and we make it up to Lorelei. Lorelei of the Elite Four, of course, she is going to be stacked out with 5 Pokemon, all of them going to be Ice type and Water types. Just like the last battle, we start off, like, pretty strong here. The Kingler comes in, and we take down the first 2. Luckily, Kingler, honestly, man, I don't know why I didn't use Kingler in the first playthrough more. It could have done most of the work, but for some reason, I just didn't, to be honest with you. I just did not use it. But in this case, don't worry, we're pretty good, okay? This thing has got itself, like I said, we got Strength, which is a HM, so not a lot of people use them as actual attacking moves. I think Rock Smash is a pretty bad one, but Strength is actually really good. It does a lot of damage, especially against Pokemon like these, and especially against something like Jinx as well, because this thing stands no chance against Strength as we take it down. Lapras, on the other hand, is a little bit more scary, and at the side, okay, you know what? Kingler needs to live. I don't want to lose him just yet, so instead we're going to send in our boy Lapras and finish up this battle. So that was the first Elite Four member in blue version. We still have 3 more to go. Bruno, as I've previously mentioned, is one of the easiest ones, so we're not going to be struggling too much with him. But Lorelei from before, I do want to mention, though, that she's actually the only Elite Four Kanto leader to not use 2 Pokemon of the same species. As you guys notice, like, for example, Bruno here, he uses 2 Onyxes, right? Agatha has 2 Gengars, and Lance has 2 Dragonites, or Dragoneers. But she just doesn't use 2 of them. Lorelei just doesn't use a double Pokemon, which is really weird. But on the other hand, though, his team has pretty much been swept, okay? We swept through his whole team with just Kingler and Surfs and Strength. So he didn't stand a chance, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't stand a chance. But there is one more person to deal with. It's going to be Agatha. Now, Agatha, we spam Flamethrower, and lucky for us, she keeps switching in and out. She switches in a Golbat, and that gets her Gengar, her first Gengar, killed, because she does have 2 of them. And then she sends in Haunter and then switches into an Arbok, which allows us to go for the Flamethrower twice. Again, we're just able to hit because she keeps switching to kill both the Haunter, Arbok, Gengar, and I don't even know what to say, man. She just keep killing them all. Against this Gengar here, too, we just spam Flamethrower, and we end up defeating it because it misses all of its moves. Honestly, this Agatha battle was probably the easiest Agatha battle I've ever had in my life. Like, it just went so smooth for us. But there is one more man to go before we take on the champion. It's going to be, of course, Lance. Gyarados is his first Pokemon. We get hit by the Hydro Pump, which has very low accuracy, but it still hits us. But the second time, though, it misses. So we go for a Slash to confirm the kill. Means we've taken him down, but we still have a few more Pokemon to go. So Lapras has to come in because, of course, we do have a lot of great moves like Ice Beam that can do a lot of the work here. Ice Beam takes down the first Dragoneer, but we are low from being hit by the Hyper Beams. Luckily, we do outspeed after a while. However, against Aerodactyl, I make sure to go in with Kingler just because we want to save Lapras for later. And also, you know, Kingler I feel like is good, but I think Lapras is better. So we go for these Surfs here. They do both hit. The double hit of Surf takes down the Aerodactyl, leaving only 1 Pokemon. It's going to be Dragonite. I send in Haunter because, like I said, Haunter just not that strong. The fact that we can evolve it into a Gengar means it's not that useful. So I decided to go for the Confuse Ray first, just to give us a kind of a possible chance. We also poison it, and then follow up by going for double Thunderbolts. And that somehow works. I didn't think that was going to work. It genuinely shocked me, but it did actually work. And also, that Dragonite used Barrier, man. It was really weird. He actually used Barrier in the battle, which it isn't supposed to do. However, the last battle is going to be against our boy, Gary. Now, Gary, first Pokemon, well, we're going to go against the Flamethrower against him because that's going to burn him. Alakazam sets up Reflect, but we go for the Flamethrower here again. With the double Flamethrower, though, we do not get him. I thought this was going to be enough, but eventually, the third hit takes him down. He does also have Rhydon, so we switch in Kingler instead. We do get hit by a few hits there, but the Surf is enough to just pretty much destroy his little Pokemon. Arcanine, though, this is where things get scary. I think he went for a takedown, but thanks to that, our Surf is able to hit 1 time and defeat him. But I also want to make sure we still keep Kingler alive, so when we go against the Executor, we use Flamethrower, and it does most of the work. But with the Fire Blast, though, that's when things really start happening. Against his Blastoise, Haunter is out. We go for the Confuse Ray, which does leave him confused and leaves us in a good position. Like, I'm gonna be real, this run, I think we only lost like a few Pokemon, like one Pokemon. I think Beedrill is the only Pokemon in blue that we lost. However, in the first run, in red, we lost 5. So yeah, we did way better in our second run. In blue, we did way better. And I think it might be because we had the Butterfree and the Raticate. Those guys did a lot of great work. And Lapras also just comes in great, especially against the Elite Four. Lapras is the best there. And it makes sense. Like, you get the Pokemon even more than halfway through the game, like 60% through the game, you already get it then. So it is a pretty great Pokemon to have. Nonetheless, though, is the final Pokemon to take down Pokemon Blue version with Ash's team. So yes, this was a hard run, but it's not as hard as the one that's about to happen. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Pokemon Yellow, or as the little logo on the screen says, Pokemon Thunder. I don't know why I used that logo, but it doesn't really matter. Either way, this is going to be the hardest run, and it's mostly because we have to start with Pikachu, which has nothing to do against some of the Pokemon that we're going to be going up against. But we can again catch ourselves the Rattata, and we can also catch ourselves a few other Pokemon that we've had before. But first up is going to be Rattata. Next up, the second Pokemon is, of course, going to be Caterpie, because we want to have that same exact start we had from Blue. Like, I realized, hey man, if I can get the same run and not get unlucky, we might have this. So let's just make sure we get the Confusion on Butterfree, take down the first gym, just like we did with, in Blue version with Charmander. As long as we have all those stuff on our side, we might actually have this. We go through Mount Moon relatively quickly, make it over, pick up some TMs, and go right over to Misty. Same thing here. Misty's team doesn't really stand a chance against our Butterfree. We don't really have Mega Drain just yet, but we do also have Pikachu with Thunder Shock, so that's able to do a lot of the damage here in this case. The Thunder Wave is also a good way to just kind of paralyze them. Like, Paralysis is a great move because it also lowers their speed, or like actually gives you priority because they're slower now. So it's a really great move to just have Thunder Wave in this case, in case you just want to make sure you get the Paralysis, just to give you extra speed so you can hit faster. Now that Misty's defeated, though, we have 2 gym badges in yellow, which means good progress so far. We talked to Pikachu before we go and take on Gary on the Nugget Bridge. He has 4 Pokemon. We only have 3. Like I said, we don't really have Beedrill available right now, as you may notice. Instead, we have to go for Pikachu, and we use Slam to take down the Sandshrew, but he keeps using Sand Attack, which is so annoying, man, because it lowers our accuracy, and I have to switch out. I go into Butterfree instead, but eventually he dies, though. Rattata doesn't stand a chance. Eevee is also really weak, so we go for the multiple confusions before it goes down. Like I said, though, Beedrill is dead. We lost it in the previous run, but don't worry, we can replace things with, for example, Charmander. Because yes, keep in mind, Charizard was still alive at the end of Blue, and we can get a free Charmander, which we're going to evolve into a Charmeleon, from one of the people above Nugget Bridge. After we've done all that, we've gotten ourselves the SSN ticket. We're going to go meet up Gary over at the SSN. As for this battle, though, it was really easy. We had Seismic Toss. It's a TM that we pick up every single time on our runs. We always make sure to pick it up. And if you give it to a Charmeleon, you have a great move that will be really clutch, especially against, like, if you go up against a water type and you really need, like, a move that isn't a fire type move. It is perfect. And especially in a situation like this, because like I said, Charmeleon is dog, man. It's such a bad, like, it's just such a bad moveset. I don't know if I just missed some of the moves or there are better TMs, but it just doesn't have a lot of good options. But it doesn't really matter. We got ourselves HM cut, and now it's time to take on the gym leader of Vermilion. It's going to be, of course, our old friend, Lieutenant Surge. Now, you may notice he only has 1 Pokemon, and that's because for some reason in specifically Yellow, they gave him only Raichu, jeez. They only give him Raichu, and the reason for this is because in the anime, he only uses Raichu when Ash battles him. And since Yellow is based on Ash's journey more, or tried to mimic Ash's journey, that's the reason. But we do survive here. Charmeleon, Raticate, they're both super low health. We barely survived that battle, but we did survive it nonetheless. Meaning, we can now move on. We also get a free Squirtle from this lady. This is one of the Squirtles from the Squirtle squad, so he's now in our squad. Of course, he can't evolve into a War Turtle or a Blastoise, which is unfortunate, but that doesn't really matter because against Erica, we don't even need them. All we really need is Charmeleon. So we go right in, go for the Ember, which does a lot of damage, but still not enough as much as you would think, right? Like, it does not do as much as you would think. But we do take down the Tangela. Weeping Bell, we get the burn on as well, but it tries to, like, I think it tried to poison us, but it doesn't really work in this case. We actually survived, and we do get the burn, like I said, which does mean any of physical moves coming from it will do less damage, but we do also get Acided onto Raticate as well. using the quick attack just to confirm the kill for the most part, leaving the Gloom to deal with. Now, I was worried here. I was like, oh boy, the Petal Dance is going to kill us, but it doesn't. We actually survived just barely, like just on the edge of dying here, because the Petal Dance, as before, took down our Primeape. So things were looking dangerous, man. But down into the Team Rocket HQ we go, pick up the Sylph Scope, and back over to Lavender Town we head. In Lavender Town, of course, Gary's going to be waiting. Now he's evolved this Sparrow into a Pharaoh. But again, Seismic Toss does most of the work here. Magnemite, of course, because there isn't actually any steel typing in Gen 1, should not be that weak against our fire type moves like Ember. And against Shelder, we just kind of mix it up with a little bit of Ember, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. But for the most part, we take him down and capture ourselves a Ghastly. Keep in mind, we can have Haunter in our squad because of the fact that Ash has owned both a Haunter and a Gengar in the past, so that's pretty cool. Next up, we pick up the Rod and head over to Koga. Before we take him on, we evolve our boy, Ghastly into a Haunter just to make sure that we are strong enough. Against him, we have the Venonat first. We do have Flamethrower now, as you may notice, because we're level 47. We take down the Venonat with that. The second Venonat, same thing. However, he has 3 of these things for some reason, so all of them go down, leaving only Venomoth. Now, notice, he has a Venomoth in this battle, which means when we take on Sabrina later, she's not going to have a Venomoth on her team. Like, that's literally such a cool little detail that I didn't even know. But now that we're back in Saffron, we go around and take down all the people in Team Rocket before it's time to take on Gary for another time. Now, this is the battle right before we get Lapras again. And like I said, Lapras, clutch Pokemon, top tier, creme de la creme, amazing. But we do need to defeat him first, though, and he has a strong team. The Sandslash, really difficult. Cloyster keeps hitting us with, like, Wrap or some shit, man, which was really annoying. But we do have Haunter on the squad, so I switch him in, and I decide, okay, you know what, Haunter might be able to do some work here. We go for the Nightshade, takes down the Magneton, not a problem. But the Kadabra is scary, man. It goes for Confusion, and yes, we lost Haunter. Haunter died, which is, it just annoys me, to be honest, okay? It just really annoys me. Haunter died. It's fine, though. It does feel shitty, but he did die here, which means, yes, we've lost another teammate. But it's not the end of the world. We do have Lapras on the squad now. We take down Jesse and James with just the help of Charizard before it's time to take on Giovanni, the man, the myth, the legend. Here we use Squirtle and just go for the Bubble Beams as well as Surf. We gave him Surf after picking it up in, of course, the Safari Zone. And we need Surf because we're going to be having to surf over to Cinnabar Island in just any second. But before that, we have to take him down and get the Master Ball. Again, we don't really need the Master Ball, but we just get it because why not? After that, we head over to Sabrina and her gym and take her on. She starts off with Abra. We take it down with Flamethrower, but then we got to deal with Kadabra because that's her second Pokemon. And same thing here, the Flamethrower are able to do most of the work. The Kadabra even misses its own moves, which is even better for me because, hey, it helps me out, man. Alakazam, on the other hand, has Recover. So here is just a battle of who's gonna give in first. We keep spamming Flamethrower. She goes for Reflect. We go for another Flamethrower, but that's enough to defeat her. Keep in mind, she didn't have a Venomoth this time. Like I said, again, really cool little fact. Now that we're done with that, though, Cinnabar Island awaits. We go into the mansion. I don't decide to actually capture a Muck this time. I don't know why I didn't do this. I probably should have captured Muck and switched out the Squirtle. I don't know why I didn't do that. Don't ask me why. I don't even remember if we lost Muck or not at this point, but I probably should have, like, you know, gotten it. But I didn't, so it is what it is. Against this battle, though, Lapras does most of the work. We have, of course, Blizzard on it now, too. It's a move that I think you find when you go through, like, the... I want to say, like, Shoal Cave. I don't know what it's called, but like the Ice Cave right before Cinnabar Island. So I decided, you know what? We should probably save it and not lose Lapras because we'll need it against Lance in the Elite Four. Instead, let's use Charizard against the Arcanine. With that sorted out, though, there is one more gym leader for this whole challenge, guys. It's been a long run, but it's time to take on Giovanni. First out, the Ice Beam takes down the Dog Trio. We also have to deal with his Persian, because yes, this is him using more of like an anime-based team, and Persian is part of that, so we go again for the Ice Beam. We do get critically hit, though, by that Slash, which is not good. Nidoqueen, though, comes in with the Thunder, which leaves us on 3 HP, man. We almost lost our boy here, so I switch in Butterfree instead and go for the Psybeam, which... holy hell, dude. That's so close, okay? So close. But we do lose Butterfree in the process. And this pissed me off. This really pissed me off because we lost our boy Lapras. We lost our boy Butterfree in the process. Lapras lives, but Charizard has to come in and finish off the Nidoking. So yes, we lost a teammate, but we still have one more Pokemon to go, and it's Rhydon. And we go for the Surf after surviving barely an Earthquake. Surf, however, is going to be super effective against it and take him down. So yes, we lost another squad member. And it's getting to be a little bit scary now. I'm not going to lie. It's getting a bit terrifying. We have to take on Gary again. He has himself a Sand Slash. Once more, we go for the Ice Beam. We take down Execute with the Ice Beam as well. Again, any Grass-type Pokemon will be weak to Ice-type moves. I think the only, like, if you really think about Ice-type, like, being a strong set of typings, like, it really is really good. Like, Ice-type is really strong. It's effective against a lot of things, and it comes in really good against even Magneton in this case, even though it could have hit, it was like a, you know, Thunder Shock or something. Even a Thunder would have been really dangerous. Kadabra stands no chance either, and Flareon is like the only one where I'd decide like, uh-oh, you know, things are getting a bit dangerous. Things are getting a bit scary, but Ice Beam still does all the work for us, and we take down Gary for the second to last time in this whole video, guys. We're here. We've made it, okay? We're at the championship. We're at the Elite Four. As you guys know, the first person we always battle is going to be Lorelei. First out on her end is going to be Dugong. We go for the Thunderbolt on Pikachu. We do get hit by an Aurora Beam, but we also go for a Thunder, which actually hits, but she still lives. And then she goes for a bloody freaking Super Potion, man. We do survive that, though, and then we switch in Lapras against the Cloyster. But she hits us with a Spike Cannon, which, more than anything, we just have to make sure we go for Psywave here, because any of our other moves are not going to be as effective. Psywave does defeat it, but Slowbro also still lives, and it hits us with a Psychic. We try to go for the Body Slam, but, again, it doesn't do a lot of damage, but we do get the Paralysis. So Raticate has to come in because we want to save our boy. However, Raticate dies, I think, to either a Hydro Pump or a Surf there, but yeah, it just wasn't good for us. And the Psychic also takes down Squirtle, so we've just lost 2 Pokemon back-to-back. But again, we still have a few teammates to go. Okay, so we got Charizard, we go for the Flamethrower as well as the Submission. He keeps using Withdraw, which is just annoying more than anything. The Cut doesn't do a lot of damage, but eventually the second Seismic Toss actually kills. Jinx, though, is super weak to a Flamethrower. It does live a little bit health, and we go for... We also get Frozen, by the way. We also get Frozen. So we have to switch in our Lapras and try to go for the Body Slam, which does hit, but we still have to deal with one more Lapras. So this battle already lost us 2 teammates, okay? We already lost 2 squad members. Raticate and both Squirtle and Raticate are both gone. I don't remember what happened here. I could have probably... I think I just decided not to use Kingler or whatever for this run. I don't know what happened. I didn't catch Krabby. So, yeah, I didn't really have a lot of options to work with. We're stuck with 3 Pokemon, and we didn't fill up our squad fully. Like, I'm gonna be real. Things were very scuffed here. I recorded this at like 3 a.m. in the morning, okay? So I was really just stressed out. But first up is going to be Bruno before we take on, you know, just the most annoying one was going to be Agatha. But Bruno has got himself just a team of the same exact Pokemon like before. It's just fighting types mixed with ground rock types. It's, you know, the Onyxes. But Lapras is able to sweep pretty much his whole team here, with even the Machamp, when this is going for the Submission, being the only Pokemon that we don't want to risk it against. So we send in Charizard instead. It hits us with a Submission again, but that actually causes it to take damage itself. So a single Flamethrower defeats it. Well, Bruno was easy, but this is Agatha, ladies and gentlemen. It's Agatha. So, what do we do against her? Well, she starts off with the Gengar. We go for the Flamethrower, but she switches into the Golbat. We actually miss. Actually, we went for the Fire Blast the first time, but the Fire Blast second time around does hit. She uses Lick, which paralyzes us, so we do make sure to go for the Flamethrower. She also has a Mega Drain on this thing, which is super weird. But we try to go for the Flamethrower again. She tries to set up a substitute, doesn't work. The Haunter also gets hit by a Flamethrower and takes down. But then against Gengar, well, things are a little bit more dangerous here. We get confused by it a few times on Lapras, so we send in Charizard after a while to finish things up. So Charizard was able to defeat that Gengar, but it really was sketchy there. A lot of our Pokemon had to be used, and a lot of our Pokemon took a lot of damage. Lance is the last one, though. Lance, of course, is going to be the most annoying one in the case that he has a bunch of Dragon types. And we only have 3 Pokemon left. So first up, the Gyarados stands no chance to our Thunder and Thunderbolts. But we do lose Pikachu. Pikachu dies to a Hyper Beam, so we send in Lapras with double Ice Beams. The first Dragonair and the second Dragonair both die to the Ice Beams. But the Aerodactyl is really terrifying, man. The Ice Beam hits it too, takes it down. Against Dragonite, though, we get hit by a Thunder, but our Ice Beam is a one-hit KO, okay? We are safe, but we did lose Pikachu, which means we have to complete this run. This is the last battle, and it's against Gary, and we only have Lapras and Charizard. First up is our Ice Beam. It does a lot of damage and takes down the Sand Slash. However, Alakazam gets hit with the Blizzard, and we get the Freeze Hacks, which is so freaking good, man, because then we can just Ice Beam one time. Exeggutor, same thing here. Double Ice Beam, and baby, she gone. Actually, it was a Blizzard and Ice Beam, but who cares? At the end of the day, we're getting all the Blizzards hitting, taking down the Magneton as well. Ladies and gentlemen, there's only a few more Pokemon to go. Cloyster is up first. Here we get hit by the spike cannon. It's a little bit annoying, but we managed to live somehow, and we go for the ice beam here at the end after getting the paralysis from body slam. Flareon is the last Pokemon. We do lose Lapras, but Charizard still has Seismic Toss, and ladies and gentlemen, that is it. We completed all 3 games, and we lost 10 Pokemon in the process. It was a crazy run. I want to thank you all for watching. If you guys want to see me do Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal next, drop a like down below. If we can get to 500 likes, we're going to do a run in Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal. Thank you all for watching, and bye-bye.